Our next presenter is Carlsson. He is now a third-year undergraduate student studying mechanical engineering. He's also on the Curtin motorsport team, and this particular project is supervised by Michael Dizon from the Faculty of Business and Law, and is focused on VR technologies and immersive content and virtual court hearings for legal practice and training. And his content will be on the dome and the wedge.
As said, my project is on virtual reality technologies and immersive content in virtual court hearings for legal practice and training. The objectives for this project are to investigate the different equipment required to produce an immersive experience, then to produce a proof of concept immersive experience of a moot court session, and for that to act as a stepping stone to achieving further equity of access to virtual hearings, as current online attendees may feel that the people's right to a public hearing may be infringed upon due to the limited field of view or limited viewing angles in current video link technologies used. The goal of any immersive experience is to produce a functionally equivalent replication of a fully real experience. I think a common example for this is communication. You may be aware of the progression of emails and messaging up to calls and then to video calls, but what makes these forms of distant communication capable of more expression and thus better communication? In text, it's obviously difficult to express tone, but in moving up to audio calls, you gain those common vocal features such as tone, pitch, pace, and volume. Up another step to video calls, you then gain facial expressions, and some are possibly all like full body language. This is where video link technology is currently, with solutions such as Microsoft Teams, as is most commonly used for remote appearances in court. But then what's missing at this point so far? The environment and the co-presence, the relative position of other people. These factors are present in existing video link solutions, but they're more of a background feature rather than a highlight. These may not be particularly important for a standard meeting, but in the court of law, the context of the environment of the courtroom with the coat of arms and the co-presence of others, such as the judge, is important in reminding people that they are in fact in a court of law, and to retain those feelings of respect and authority even within a virtual space, just as they would if they were physically there. And I believe the solution for this, and thus the next step from current video link technology, lies within virtual reality and also augmented reality technologies. This technology specializes in this sort of visualization, as it is derived from the stereoscope, where you can see specifically arranged pairs of flat two-dimensional images in a sort of pseudo three-dimensional form. These stereoscopes predate even photographs, with that 1838 one being tested only with drawings because photographs didn't exist at the time. Moving on from there, there's also these slide-type stereographs, which are used in lens-based stereoscopes, which start to resemble more modern-day virtual reality head-mounted displays. In terms of capture, there are stereo cameras that are dating back to the 1900s, while currently there are also cameras that use their single sensor with, say, a dual fisheye lens to capture the same stereo effect, as well as particular tripods that may be capable of carrying two full-frame cameras, as long as the settings and alignment and everything are all in sync between them. Alternatively, more towards the consumer side, you have handheld devices such as the Nintendo 3DS and the X-Real Beam Pro in a phone format. Essentially, stereoscopy is the way to view flat images in a three-dimensional form, and a VR headset is really just a head-mounted stereoscope with digital displays. VR and AR technology is already in trial use primarily for training purposes, most predominantly within safety, medical, and even military fields, but are also slowly creeping into industry practice in these fields with, for example, real-time assistance in certain medical procedures. There's also an important distinction between redisplaying captured content and computer-generated simulation. Both of these are used in training purposes, but the difference is typically that simulation type content is far more interactive. For example, a flight simulator where, of course, you're controlling a certain aircraft. Whereas this project is more of the redisplaying type, where it involves capturing a scene and then reviewing that footage on a device such as a VR headset or even just a computer monitor. I think the field of law can potentially benefit from this as well, primarily for learning and training in educational settings, but also potentially for moving to a more immersive video link technology in virtual hearings over just using Microsoft Teams for a standard online meeting format in order to gain that greater equity of access that comes from having a wider field of view and the context of the environment. So how do we do this? The workflow used is to start off recording with the camera, in this case the Canon R5C with its dual fisheye lens, which of course gives you a dual fisheye video input as visible on the left. This is also mounted on a tripod to keep the shot stable, as all of these shots are static to prevent any risk of motion sickness when viewing those back. From here you have to convert it to the common equirectangular format. For me, I did this using the Canon EOS VR utility, followed up by Stereo Movie Maker. This is not only to get it into the equirectangular format, but also to do alignment between the eyes so that you don't have eye strain, particularly when looking to the edges of the screen. With alignment is really important, and it's essential that it's only horizontal offset, because that's pretty much the same as your actual eyes, so that a viewer again doesn't experience eye strain. Next, you just need to export it as a common compatible file format and codec, such as MP4 and H.264, which is what is most commonly used and maximizes compatibility with both video players as well as platforms such as YouTube. Then you reach the point where it's viewable, but also not just in VR. If you upload it to YouTube, for example, even 360 and 180 degree videos are viewable, and you can look around with them even on desktop and mobile devices, just the same as you would looking around with a VR headset. The process is mostly the same for monoscopic 360 video, which was also tested. The only difference is that alignment between eyes doesn't need to occur. It's replaced by more of a stitching process, but those are very similar processes because you're aligning it so that you don't have any major discrepancy between the views or any discontinuities. Comparing those the two cameras used, you have a full frame camera, the Canon R5C, as well as a consumer grade 360 camera such as the Insta360 X4. The Canon R5C can record in a slightly higher than usual 8K up to 60 FPS, albeit only in RAW format. Otherwise it's limited to 30 FPS. This resolution equates to 23 pixels per degree. I'll explain pixels per degree in the next slide, but it's a better form of resolution for this sort of application. The Canon R5C is also limited by a 60-minute battery life, however, when recording at 8K. However, as a full-frame camera, it's easy to swap out the battery or attach an external power source. And since it's only recording 180 degrees, you can just, anything behind the camera is hidden and won't be visible within your scene. Unlike with the Insta360 X4, which is a 360-degree camera, being in a small form factor, it tends to overheat before the battery runs out when recording at 8K. This 70 minutes is longer than the Canon would last. However, connecting external power to it would only make it overheat quicker. So that would reduce the working time. So that really is the limit at this resolution, and only runs that at 30 FPS. So if you want 60 FPS, resolution has to be knocked down to 5.7K. And these two resolutions equate to 21 and 16 pixels per degree respectively. Pixels per degree is an important measure because it measures perceived resolution. And unlike pixels per inch, which is related to the physical size of your device. Pixels per degree matters with the distance you're viewing it from, as well as your screen size. So this makes situations like holding your phone at arm's length versus viewing a TV across the room, or even a VR headset, all comparable, and those are the exact examples I've put up here. As you can see, with a 6-inch phone at a distance of 16 centimeters, which is about arm's length, that's about 102 ppd. A 60-inch 4K TV at 2 meters is 105 ppd. But common consumer headsets, the Meta Quest 3, is only at 25 ppd. Even enterprise level headsets like the Apple Vision Pro with a significantly higher resolution is still only at 34 ppd. And most importantly, our camera, the Canon, even though it's recording in 8K, it's technically 4K per eye, but this 4K is stretched across 180 degree field of view, thus reducing it only to 23 pixels per degree. This is why, although you may hear 8K or 16K resolution in VR or 360 degree content, you might think that's a high resolution, as you would with traditional content, but in these cases it's not so much the case. Beyond this, the streaming is the next major step for this project, with its investigation into capture and playback. With this project's investigation into capture and playback was a major step in getting to that stage and creating a streaming workflow. As such, there is a live streaming workflow investigated, but only for the Insta360 camera, as that has a simple feature on it, such as called webcam mode, where you just connect that camera to a computer and it just is usable as a normal webcam, as the mode name might suggest. And simply using software such as open broadcasting software or OBS, you can stream to YouTube, Facebook, whatever else, the same way as you would any other situation. This mode, however, is limited to a much lower resolution of 2.8K and only at 30 FPS. This is set by the manufacturer to avoid overheating, especially since it's also connected to a power source. This resolution equates to only 8 pixels per degree, and frankly that's not great, even if it can operate indefinitely. A potential future workflow involving the Canon camera for streaming would involve figuring out a back-end pipeline which can do all the equirectangular alignment and everything in the sort of packet video format that live streams function on. This process would also have to be functioning in real-time speeds or faster, so you'll need a really powerful computer to process resolutions like 8K in real time, as not even high-end consumer PCs are able to do that. Another element important for immersion and access equity is, of course, a good audio capture system. In my demos, only the onboard microphones of the cameras were used. So for the most part, only the person behind the camera can be heard clearly. So solutions for this may include having lav mics on every speaker and then spatializing that in post in something like Unity. Alternatively, there are spatial microphones on the market, which of course is far more expensive than just a handful of lav mics. In a similar price range to that is also the professional grade Insta360 Pro 2, same brand as that consumer grade 360 camera, but it's a whole unit capable of stereoscopic 360 degree camera as it has footage, as it has 6 cameras on it, along with 4 onboard microphones, and is also apparently capable of 8K live streaming. So that may be the best way forward. That's all from me, and thank you for listening.